The late spring air was warm, wrapping the quiet neighborhood of Charleston in a blanket of stillness. Jennifer Hayes stood by the kitchen window of her neatly kept home, sipping her morning coffee, watching the trees sway gently. She was 36, a mother of two, and married for over 11 years to Daniel Hayes, a financial consultant whose time had become increasingly absorbed by work. Their marriage had long settled into a routine, safe, predictable, and void of the spark that once defined their love. Conversations had grown brief, affection had turned into formality, and intimacy had become a distant memory. Jennifer tried, she really did. But each attempt at reviving what they once had was met with silence or distraction. Daniel wasn't cruel. He was simply absent in a way that was louder than any argument. It was the kind of absence that made a woman feel invisible, while standing right next to the man who once called her his whole world. It was during one of her many volunteer shifts at the local community center that Jennifer met Caleb Miller. He was the new fitness instructor, in his early 40s, with a smile that reached his eyes and a voice calm like a morning breeze. He wasn't just handsome. He was attentive, listening with genuine interest. Jennifer first noticed him when she joined a yoga class, hoping it would help her relax. Caleb corrected her posture once, lightly touching her back. The contact was brief, professional, but she felt it hours later, lingering like an echo. Week after week, Jennifer found herself staying longer after class, sometimes helping Caleb pack up mats or talking about their favorite music. He remembered the small things she said, like how she liked her coffee or that her daughter was afraid of thunderstorms. His attention filled a void she hadn't acknowledged fully. Caleb asked her about books, music, even her childhood. Daniel hadn't asked her anything personal in years. She began dressing a little differently for class. Nothing dramatic, just more thought in the details. A little mascara, a flattering top. She wasn't planning anything. She just wanted to feel something again, something alive. One rainy afternoon, the community center was nearly empty. The rain tapped steadily against the windows, creating a cocoon of quiet inside the yoga room. Jennifer was helping Caleb tidy up after a session. She laughed at something he said, something silly but oddly profound, and when she looked up at him, the moment lingered. Caleb stepped closer, brushing a damp strand of hair from her cheek. "You deserve to be seen, Jen," he whispered. His words unraveled something inside her. She didn't protest when he gently leaned in and kissed her. It wasn't rushed or hungry, it was deep, slow, filled with meaning she hadn't felt in years. When his hand rested lightly on her side, she closed her eyes, not in shame, but in surrender. His touch wasn't invasive. It was warm, careful, almost reverent. It reached beyond her skin and stirred the aching loneliness she had buried under years of being a good wife, a responsible mother. Afterward, they didn't speak much. She left quietly, the sound of her footsteps echoing in the hallway. That night, Daniel came home late, exhausted and distant, talking about a client's portfolio while Jennifer sat in silence, her heart still racing from the afternoon. Days turned into weeks. Jennifer wrestled with guilt, but what surprised her more was the clarity. Caleb didn't chase her. He never texted or called outside the center. He respected her silence. But when they saw each other, the energy between them was undeniable. Every glance, every word exchanged had an electric undertone. She wasn't foolish, she knew what it meant. But she also knew she couldn't keep living as a ghost in her own home. One morning, Jennifer asked Daniel if they could talk. They sat in the kitchen, the kids already at school. Her hands trembled around the mug she held. "I'm not happy," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Daniel looked up from his phone, startled. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I feel like we're roommates. We don't talk. We don't touch. I don't feel seen, Daniel." He sighed, setting his phone down. "I've been working hard for this family. I thought you understood that." "I do. But I need more than just stability. I need connection. I need to feel like I matter." He didn't argue. His silence said it all. Jennifer told Daniel she needed a break. Not because of Caleb, but because she finally realized how lost she had become in the shadows of a lifeless marriage. Daniel was shocked. but he didn't beg her to stay. He knew to. Maybe he always had. She moved into a small apartment nearby, sharing custody of the kids. At first, the loneliness was sharp. Nights were the hardest. But she started writing again, something she hadn't done in years. She painted the living room walls herself, chose the curtains, rearranged the bookshelves. Small acts of claiming space that felt truly hers. She didn't jump into a relationship with Caleb. They took things slow. They went on walks, had coffee, shared stories. He once brought her a book she mentioned in passing, left it at her doorstep with a note. Thought you might like to get lost in this one. For the first time in years she felt heard, touched, and understood. Caleb asked about her dreams, not just her duties. He made her laugh with ease and listened without distraction. She discovered that the ache in her heart wasn't just for romance. It was for recognition. Infidelity wasn't just about the act. It was about the absence that came before it, the quiet ache of being unseen for too long. Jennifer's story wasn't about betrayal alone. It was about awakening. Months later, as summer came into full bloom, Jennifer sat across from Caleb at a small outdoor cafe. He reached for her hand, and she smiled. There was still guilt in her heart, but there was peace too, because now, her heart was no longer silent. They talked about the future, no promises, no pressure, just hope. Caleb kissed her again, and this time, it wasn't laced with guilt or secrecy. It was soft, familiar, full of quiet joy, and when his touch reached her heart again, it no longer stirred pain. It affirmed her choice to live, to feel, and to love again. Her story wasn't perfect, but it was real, and in that truth she found freedom.